Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Canyon. Welcome to this. This is unequivocally a first. Ordinarily, we do a quick view on things, and when we say quick, it means that because generally we're unboxing something, we are testing it, and then thus ends the testing. So 30 minutes of use, 40 minutes of use, that's where the quick comes in. It's not because we're going to do it in a 6-minute video. I've said before, and I will say again, never trust a 7-minute review, because generally what happens is the person gets the product, they test it in the background for a couple hours, they shoot B-roll, they cherry pick that B-roll, and then they say, look how amazing it is. No one is ever going to show you a negative of anything. And I want everything to be good. I want more products on the market to give us more options. I want more affordable things. I want tires that are cheap. I want motors that are cheap. I want speed controls that are cheap. And the threshold for where my cheapness begins and ends, basically, let me put it to you this way. If you're a brushed ESC and you cost more than a 1080, a Hobbywing 1080 WP, G2 or prior, you've got a big hill to climb, because the motor that we take out of baseline to do these tests is a Hobbywing Fusion SE 1200, which costs $69, and that is motor and ESC. What you are going to see right now is a motor and ESC that I don't know how much it costs, because why this classifies as a first for the Canyon is this is an Injora brushed ESC for 10th scale. I know that they have previously made brushed ESCs for smaller, but this is to my knowledge, this is their first 10th scale brushed ESC, and also, to my knowledge, it is not available yet. This may well indeed be a pre-production model. It came stapled into a nondescript plastic bag with nothing in it. I can tell you that it does come pre-wired with an XT60. It has an extremely long, I did the heat coiling on it. It's this long. So someone took the TRX4 into account, as on a TRX4, usually the speed control is over here, and then you got to go snake it all around to get into the receiver box. And with many speed controls, you're putting an extension on. With this guy, I would not have needed to put an extension on under any means. And that's it. There's no programming button. There's a switch, little dangly switch with a light up button that doesn't do anything under throttle. It just shows red that it's on. There's a little LED at the back shining out. Can you see? There we are right there. It also doesn't do anything. It just red. The only specs that I know about this, which was sent to me by Injora, is the gentleman who sent, I said, do you have any specs? He sent me a thing with the specs, 2 sentences. 140 amp, 2 and 3S capable, and it has a BEC, a 5 amp BEC internal at 6 volts or 7.4 volts. You long hold this button and it will beep twice. If it beeps twice, at 6 volt. If it beeps 3 times, it's 7.4 volts, and that's it. It calibrates in the usual fashion. We can recalibrate right here. There's your off tone. Has a nice little on tone. Hold the trigger full. And it's, I think it does some sort of auto calibration. If it didn't appear clear, full throttle forward, full throttle reverse. It appears to have 50% reverse by default, which I'm 100% okay with. And it is the quietest. That's 100% gear noise. I hear no motor noise, much less pulse width noise at all. It is completely silent. How low fidelity is often determined by how low can we get cruise control and still have it move. +5. Let's go. A Hobbywing 1080 in a similar configuration, you will usually have to get the throttle where this that says the 5 right there. You'd actually have to get it up around 12. Whereas on 12, we're actually into it. So what that means is greater fidelity. We have more trigger throw to work with because when we initially tip into the throttle, we have to give it basically the pressure of my finger to get it to move. And I think that it might not be lies about the power of it because it behaves very much like a brushed motor where you can stall it out if we... But there is some grunt right there. For testing purposes, we have gone all the way to the top rung. For the quick view of the ESC itself, we will evaluate the ESC later with cheaper options. This is a team brewed, now quite longly discontinued, team brewed Doomsday 35 turn. This is a hand wound motor, and it was on clearance at A-Main, so I paid like $40 for it. But I recognize that when that motor was new and available new, it was about $90. I'm not the type of guy that spends $90 on a brushed motor. I have a bucket of brushed motors over here, and we could test any number of them. Injora has some $15 options. Yeah, racing, the hack motors are about $15, $16. There are plenty of options in rebuildable 540s and 550s. I don't like sealed can 540s or 550s. Not because they're sealed, but because they put the cheapest possible componentry into them. Many of them have a single bearing and one bushing. So we're talking about stuff that's so cheap, you're sacrificing a ton of performance for that low price point. The hack motors are double bearing. The new Injora 540s and 555s are double bearing. We will test those at some point in the future. We will do a rundown of cheap and cheaper motors to test against one another. But I want to know the capacities of the ESC. So we are going to pair it with a motor that can handle it. If I had a big block, if I had a Surpass 5-slot big block, not in use, I would toss it in here pretty much immediately to test it on that as well. Because this motor will have a decent amount of drag brake, but I really want to see. I want to see the smoothness, the fluidity. We're going to run it through a smaller version of the Canyon Tire Test Protocol. Like I said, you calibrate the ESC and you're done. And that amount of smoothness, it is honestly, I put finger pressure on the trigger and it goes. I mean, to say so far so good, because our options, that's not an accident. I want to say, are we going to get any warmth in this thing? It is looks plastic bottom, it looks like, but all aluminum upper. Some pretty big, there's a little cap back here and a pretty big cap up in the front. iDirect wired. They have opted to go for black and yellow for the motor wires, which is kind of wild. I mean, I guess as long, it's a brush motor, it doesn't even really matter. They could both be red. If it's running backwards, you just flip them over the other way around. I don't believe in bullet connectors. I've said it before. Solder it on there. It's one less point of failure. And if you've ever looked at a cheap bullet connector close from the end, they are 1/3 of a millimeter thick. So you're trying to squeeze all of your power through that little thing. Let's just direct wire the motors. If you're running brushed, or even if you're running outrunners, man, just direct wire your motors. Anyway, I have to say, I did not bother to clean this guy from when he did his last round of testing. He's starting to get some rust build up. I'm not saying that my hopes are high. We always moderate our hopes in the event that something terrible befalls us, like the Pixies let themselves out. But I don't know, man. From wiring it up, calibrating it, and then doing this on the bench, like we've got snap, but at the same time, it's so smooth. It's so smooth. All right, well, rocks. Rocks are the grand determiner. So we will leave it to the rocks. So I'm not an electrical engineer. I don't know what they've done or how they're doing it, but when I initially plugged it in, I didn't even try to do a throttle calibration, and it was, I think honestly, when it does it, I think all it's taking is trigger pull direction to know which way is forward and which way is reverse, which way you have the throttle channel on your controller set up, because it doesn't really feel any different post-calibration than it did pre-calibration. It is so smooth. This genuinely feels Fusion smooth. Now, it's never going to deliver that. We're not FOC, right? So it's not going to have that same, if we get up to something that will stop us. Oh, that was a little slide, actually. My goodness, maybe, and okay, brush motors are not consuming a lot of amps. They're not generating a ton of power. It makes this motor feel significantly more powerful than it is. I'm basically just holding my finger in a static location, almost like I'm using cruise control, and I realize now we can actually just do that. Okay, so I will line up right here. We're just gonna hit cruise control. So this is a fixed throttle amount. I didn't even put any steering input in until we were almost at the top. I'm still coming back around. I still haven't taken it off cruise control. I have cruise control set at 20, so this is 20% throttle. I'm just using the steering wheel. What? Have we been betrayed previously? Because we know. I mean, we know. If a speed control, like a Hobbywing 1040, if it says 40 amps, they really mean like 25. A 60 probably means about 40, and 80 probably means maybe 60. So this thing claiming 140, is that what I'm feeling? I have experience with this motor. This motor has moved around, has changed hands in vehicles in the Canyon, and has been in 3 or 4 vehicles. And honestly, the reason that it was in the motor bin and not being used is I've never gone like, wow, that is amazing. When I went to the big blocks, I went, wow, that is amazing. This, I mean, drag brake is not an issue. This is just thrust. I'm enjoying the wheel speed, but the layout of an SE, you're limited. You can only go down to an 18-tooth pinion. And I think a 35 turn on this, it feels fast. It feels really fast. And I don't know, it has to be the speed control, because 35 turn on an 18, which is actually the equivalent of, what is it, of 12. Is it a 12? Because in the intermediate gear, this has a near brushless feel, in that I can do this, but I can also do this. It's so much wheel speed. What is the established standard? It's the 1080. I don't think if you were to hand the controller to someone with any experience with a 1080, I don't think you could hand the controller to someone and blind test them. They would be able to tell almost immediately that something has changed. The low speed control is so much higher And I think that is entirely due to the fact that we can get so low. I have no idea of any of the little tiny specks, like the specks that a baseball fan would love. What is the pulse width? What is the drag brake setting? What are all these numbers? Because, I mean, I'm curious, but at the same time, I don't think I care. I'm curious as a seeker of knowledges, but what does it matter? That drag brake is an absolute electronic anchor. You will get no rotation out of the tire. And mind you, this is a 3-slot. It feels 5-slot smooth. It doesn't feel 5-slot smooth. It feels fusion smooth. The way that the power is delivered, with how slow you can get your wheel speed, I have not experienced this on a brushed speed control. Yeah, that's a good motor. Fine. It's not that good. It's a 3-slot, so it's a little chuggy and chunky at the low end, despite being a hand wound. This feels like silk. It's honestly, it's so smooth. If I have one wish, it would be that I could have more reverse. I could get away with like 75% reverse on this, because when you push the trigger, you can initiate. Let me get right here. When you push the trigger into reverse, you can initiate such a slow reverse. What is the problem with a lot of brushed speed controls? The transition from forward to reverse looks like that. But that's me slapping the trigger into reverse. And even that's controllable. The low speed is insane. And I feel this motor is a little more wheel speed than I think I would want optimally. I would probably want like a 40 turn in here, something around there. But I can't even imagine. I can't imagine what a 45 or a 55 would feel like, because the smoothness of this is in brushed speed controls. I am fully prepared to lapse directly into hyperbole and say the smoothest brushed setup I have used. We have a number of 1080s in the fleet. Would I consider replacing them for this? That comes down to one singular factor, and it is a factor that I don't know. I can't answer you. That is, how much is this going to cost? I have no idea. I have no idea. But I can and will tell you this. This is absolutely competitive with a 1080. And is that a shackle? You see on that rock right there? I'm trying to knock it off. If I can get around. Yeah, it's now on the ground. Somebody lost a whole bumper shackle. Shackle on the ground. Shiny red shackle. Would the owner of a missing red bumper shackle please report to the hospitality desk? Look at this. The control. Oh, we're in for a fight, everybody. We are in for a fight. Because, as I mentioned, I have a number of vehicles outfitted with what I call big block, the Surpass 540 Plus, with the larger rotor. So they make more torque, and they're 5-slot, so they are silky smooth. I want this speed control hooked up to one of those real bad. I gotta see what that's like. I think Toothless is probably gonna win this one. He is currently fitted with a 1080 G2 and a 16 turn. I think he's on the 16 turn 4-pole 5-slot big block, which is I've had people tell me that they thought there was an outrunner in there. It is so smooth and so powerful. Let's try in the future changing it from an 80 amp speed control to a 140 amps. Oh my goodness. I can't imagine it getting better than this. There will be a follow-up episode to this 1000% where we will evaluate this versus this, and I mean, by this I mean the Doomsday on the Injora. I'm just going to call it the Injora 140. The Injora 140 with the Doomsday versus the Injora 140 with a cheap sub $20 motor, with around a $30 motor, with and then we're going to slap it in toothless, and we are going to try it with a 4-pole, the discontinued 4-pole big block, which is probably the best brushed motor I own. This one is okay. Honestly, if I run this and a Tekin HD35 back to back, it's difficult to tell the difference. I don't know if I could tell the difference on this speed control. I can tell the difference on a 1080 because the Doomsday is smoother. You can feel that smoothness. Will I be able to detect additional smoothness on this speed control, like the Tekin versus this? That I can't say. I am all for this. In my dreams, Injora sells this thing for like 30 bucks. If Injora sells this thing for like 30 bucks, I am going to buy 5 of them right away. And we'll be doing a pull offering for a bunch of 1080s. It's that good. It's that good. And also, yes, let's not neglect to talk about something that I think all of us are thinking. If we're all thinking, are we on the same page? Not only is there no program card, there apparently aren't any programmable parameters. But I'm absolutely fine with that. You know what this thing is then, apparently? There's no mechanism to turn off drag brake. There's no mechanism to turn the drag brake up or down. There's no method to control the deadband or anything. And yet, what are we looking at, and what am I experiencing with my head, shoulders, knees, and toes? Fingers also. Throw fingers in as well. It just works. It has a mountain of drag brake. It is as absolutely smooth as silk. I don't know what they did. I don't know how they did it. It feels like FOC, but coming out of a brushed motor. Let's try to get that pose again. We're doing full. This is nearly an outrunner level of drag brake. And then yeah, sure, why not? Let's just keep driving forward. Absolutely, why not? Any point you stop, you're just locked. Electronic anchor. They've done cracked the code. Brushed motors are dying. Let's state it pure, simple, and plain. The Fusion SE did to brushed power plants what brushless did to nitro buggies. Why would you run the nitro? They stink, they're loud, they have to be tuned, and that brushless dude can run a 45-minute main. That's what the Fusion did to brush. Why would you mess with brush motors? You've got to mount a speed control, you've got to mount a motor, you got to do all that. A Fusion just bish, bosh, you bolt it up, boom. It's clean, it's quiet, you never have to futz with it. It just works. This is so good. It's so good. Would I recommend it over a Fusion SE? Again, I can't tell. I can't say that. At this juncture, I can't say that. Injora might price this at 50 bucks. And then I'd be like, I don't know. Injora also might sell it for 60 bucks bundled with a motor. And then I'd be like, oh, they might sell it for 50 bucks bundled with a motor. And then I'd be like, oh, we would get the full out of that one. So I don't know. There are too many things that are out in the open that prevent me from giving this a hard and fast yes, buy it, because I don't know yet. It's not out. At the time of this recording, it's not out. If this is a pre-production model and it is this good, and the production model comes out and it is this good, or alternately, this is just a production model, if this thing is cheaper than a 1080, buy it. If this is the same price as a 1080, buy it. I will indeed. We're gonna run through this. There'll be a second portion of this. I will indeed hook it up to a real piece of crap. We will dig down to the bottom of the bucket. We will extract a reedy crawler sealed can stock motor, either the one that came in this or the one that came in the Ecto or any of the others that we have rotting in the bottom of a bin, and we will see, is this thing so good that it can make the reedy crawler not be an absolute pile of hot, steaming garbage on a July day? Because that is the worst motor in the world, and this, so far, in this limited amount of testing that we did today, mostly me talking while it sits perched on a rock with drag brake just holding it like an electronic anchor should. Can this speed control... Oh, I just bucketed that. All I wanted to do was turn around. What can this speed control do to the worst motor in the world? Because I think we've given a fair look at what the speed control will do, because we've taken the motor out of the equation. That's a good motor. And paired to this, it is as good as my 1080s plus big blocks. 1080 plus big blocks is going to cost you $80 to $90 for the combo. It's not something that I often recommend to people, because just buy a Fusion SE for that money. You know? It's good, but also why? Unless you already have one of the components. If you already own a 1080, I'm like, yeah, go get a big block. Give it a shot. If you already own a big block, well, now, I used to say, just run it on a 1080, bish bosh, Bob's your uncle, and you're done. This is so good. This is so good. I need to test one other thing before I send you on your way, which is I need to drive him back over here, and I'm going to put my thumb atop the speed control. And I don't expect it to feel any different than the surrounding environment. It is ice cold. It feels exactly the same as it did when I plugged it in the very first time. You know, this is a situation of rarity which will probably not occur again in the future. Who knows? But I'm testing something before other people have the opportunity to test it, and it is not disappointing on any level. I love the fact that I don't need a program card. I basically plug the thing in and it goes. Other speed controls have tried to make this promise, like this sort of auto calibration, auto setting, and they've never delivered. They never have. My dream is this thing costs the same amount as an ISDT ESC 70, and then the ISDT ESC 70 people can finally just shut up about them. Because that thing is not comparable to this thing. Is it waterproof? I don't know. There's too much that I don't know. We will definitely, we will have multiple revisits of this speed control, because I am straight up enamored with it. From the setup, I was like, yeah, this is going to be pretty good. There's no way. I did not foresee this good. This is too good. I feel I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. Something terrible has to happen to offset the universe, right? It's too good. Anyway, based on that, I hope that the day that you are all having, and days that you have off into the future, share that in common with the Injora brushed speed control for 1/10, which doesn't have a name, and I can't give you full specs on it, in that it is too good. In between now and when we meet again, I would at least suggest that you, one and all, do your very best to have a too good one, everybody. Injora speed control your day. Man, they don't happen often, but every once in a while we get to do a test of something and get to be not just pleasantly surprised, but taken aback. And this is one, particularly in terms of electronics. Injora, don't change anything. Just give it to us for $29.99. I would buy 5 of them right now on the bucket chair. I would just take my phone out of my pocket and order 5 of them. So I thank you all so very much for watching. I look forward to this thing finally being released so that you all may also savor in it. If any of you have like converted to brushless and you've got a nice brushed motor sitting in a bucket somewhere, hold on to it. Hold on to it. Another build might be in your future. Man, it's so quiet. There's no motor noise. Injora, how did you do it?